guys, thank you for tuning into a new video. So, in this one we'll be covering the decriminalization of drug use. For this one I did an extensive bit of research, but it was kind of a bit scattered in the results that were provided for it. So I literally collected info from a bunch of sources and worked to create a breakdown covering parameters of it to understand the timeline of the decriminalization of drug use and the progress that the movement has made, and also potential shortcomings that decriminalization could have that have been weighed against the great aspects and the aspects that have kind of been a bit up in the air. Are they going to turn into the downfall sides of it, in which we'll have to implement other ideas to kind of assist with the plan, or will we be able to stick to using the plan for the decriminalization of drug use to prevail society forward? So first, what is drug decriminalization? Drug decriminalization means that people are no longer arrested or incarcerated for drugs that are used for personal usage. No longer enforcing personal drug possession saves money. These savings can go towards needed services and support. Does the decriminalization of drugs work? These two studies that I ended up doing a tad bit of research into that were conducted by Corey James, JD, MSP, and adjunct assistant professor in the Department of Population Health at NYU Grossman School of Medicine, showed that drug decriminalization measures in Oregon and Washington reduced arrests and did not increase overdose deaths. Taken together, these findings signal reduced harm to people who use drugs and possibly their communities as well. And that was a statement covered by Davis. Corey Davis, JD, MS, PhD, adjunct assistant professor in the Department of Population Health at NYU Grossman School of Medicine, is also a member of the Center for Opioid Epidemiology and Policy and these studies senior investigator. With the decriminalization of drug use, here are some of the drugs that have been decriminalized. Opium, heroin, LSD, and other synthetic drugs were decriminalized in many regions. It will not be considered as a crime as long as the drug does not exceed the limit established in the general health law. Many question this, as cocaine is as much synthesized as heroin. Both are produced as extracts from plants. What is the argument for decriminalization? A policy of prohibition has not been effective in stopping drug use and drug addiction. A comprehensive public health approach of prevention and treatment should be the primary policy thrust of government action to address the harms of drug abuse. What are the pros and cons of legalizing drugs? Legalizing drug has aspects that will include changing social norms. Critics argue that this permissiveness may result in increased drug use, potentially leading to higher instances of drug-impaired driving, public intoxication, and other related offenses. On the other hand, proponents of drug legalization argue that it can enable regulation and quality control. Is decriminalization of drugs effective? Benefits of decriminalization. Decriminalizing drugs has paid off in the Netherlands. Decriminalization of heroin and other hard drugs has allowed addicts to be treated as patients, As a result, hardly any new heroin addicts are registered, while existing users are supported and have been helped to get new jobs. What are two negatives of decriminalization? On the other hand, we'll take a look at the disadvantages of decriminalization, such as the potential increase in drug use, challenges in regulating drug markets, and the persistence of a societal stigma toward drug users. The history of drug decriminalization includes the following events. We'll go through a breakdown of different regions and the progression of the decriminalization of drug use. First, we'll be covering Portugal. The first country to decriminalize the possession of small amounts of drugs for personal use. Oregon. In 2020, Oregon decriminalized the possession of small amounts of any drug, but this policy did not seem to reduce drug use or overdoses. In the United States, in the last 2 decades, 40 students reduced the punishment for drug offenses. The Fair Sentencing Act of 2010 specified the punishment for crack and powder cocaine users. And for this breakdown, I did a tad more research into this aspect, and it'll be brought up a tad later in the video. The Fair Sentencing Act 2010 FSA, and this happens to be one of the sections where I added in a tad more of the extensive research covering the Fair Sentencing Act of 2010. The FSA enacted on August 3, 2010, reduced the statutory penalties for crack cocaine offenses to produce a 18-to-1 crack to powder drug quantity ratio. The FSA eliminated the mandatory minimum sentence for simple possession of crack cocaine and increased statutory fines. Because 100 times more powder cocaine than crack cocaine is required to trigger the same mandatory minimal penalty, this penalty structure is commonly referred to as the 10-to-1 drug quantity ratio. Other events in the history of drug policy include, and we'll go through the breakdown of progression through the times with the years stated and the facts to back it, providing the information of the history of decriminalization, the history of drug policy creation, enforcement, and progression. The International Opium Convention was signed by 13 nations, becoming the first international drug control treaty. In 1933, the 18th Amendment to the United States Constitution was repealed, ending the prohibition of alcohol. The 18th Amendment to the United States Constitution established prohibition in the United States. It was ratified on January 16, 1919. What did the amendment do? It prohibited the production, sale, or transportation of alcohol for consumption within the United States. Prohibition. It prohibited the importation of alcohol into the United States. It prohibited the exportation of alcohol from the United States. How was the amendment proposed and ratified? Congress proposed the amendment on December 18, 1917. It was the first amendment to have a deadline for ratification. Why was the amendment created? It was partly a response to the Supreme Court's Commerce Clause jurisprudence, which limited the federal and state government's power over alcohol. It was also a response to the increase in hard liquor consumption from the 1790s to the 1830s, which led to the formation of temperance groups. How was the amendment repealed? The 18th Amendment was repealed by the 21st Amendment. And we'll do it like a tad bit of a breakdown to cover the 21st Amendment also. That way it's explained as to what were the parameters of it and how it was used to repeal the 18th Amendment. The 21st Amendment to the United States Constitution repealed the 18th Amendment, which prohibited the manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcohol. The 21st Amendment was ratified on December 5th, 1933. What does the 21st Amendment do? repeals the 18th Amendment, which prohibited the sale, manufacture, and transportation of alcohol, gives states the power to regulate alcohol within their jurisdictions. It allows states to prohibit or regulate alcohol for legitimate purposes such as health or safety. How does the 21st Amendment impact federalism? The 21st Amendment, Section 2, implies that states are responsible for regulating alcohol, but the Supreme Court has grappled with how this power is allocated between the federal and state governments. This question of how power is allocated is related to federalism, which is the division of power between the national and state governments. What happened after the 21st Amendment was ratified? President Franklin D. Roosevelt proclaimed the end of prohibition. States assumed primary responsibility for regulating alcohol. Some states banned or restricted liquor traffic until the mid-20th century, however. In 1984, First Lady Nancy Reagan started the Just Say No campaign to educate the public about the risks of drug use. In 1986 and 1988, the Anti-Drug Abuse Acts increased penalties and established mandatory sentencing for drug violations. Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986. This law was part of the War on Drugs and was signed into law by President Ronald Reagan. It changed the federal supervised release system from a rehabilitative system to a punitive system. Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1988. This law was signed into law by President Ronald Reagan on November 18, 1988. It was introduced in the House by Tom Foley, a Democrat from Washington, on August 11, 1988. In 1989, the Office of National Drug Control Policy was created. ONDCP leads and coordinates the nation's drug policies so that it improves the health and lives of the American people. The ONDCP is responsible for the development and implementation of the National Drug Control Strategy and Budget. As of December 29, 2024, 7 states have decriminalized recreational cannabis use. In addition, 24 states, 3 U.S. territories, and D.C. have legalized recreational cannabis use. The FAR Amendment, passed in 2014, prevents the federal government from prosecuting people who follow state medical cannabis laws. Okay, we are on the final page, so we're gonna breeze through the final 3. And then shockingly enough, you guys, this was like a bit of an extensive info breakdown, and it still concluded to be a video it's like less than 20 minutes, so let's say this one may be a super brief one. And by that I mean a video cut out, well, should I say a video finished in less than 20 minutes. Which states have decriminalized all drugs? As of July 1st, 2023, Oregon is the only state to have decriminalized drug use, drug possession. This topic was originally tracked using sentinel surveillance. What drugs are decriminalized in California? Has California decriminalized possession of most street drugs? Absolutely not. While adults' use of cannabis and medical marijuana have been decriminalized, most other controlled substances, including synthetic versions of derivative products, are legal to possess or sell. What would happen if all drugs were decriminalized? No longer enforcing personal drug possession saves money. These savings can go towards needed services and support. This includes voluntary treatment, housing, employment, harm reduction, recovery services, and peer support. Drug decriminalization does not legalize drugs. it works to set limitations and protectorates for the recreational usages and set amounts that would, in a lot of cases, save a lot of people's butts, because it kind of helped to end the excessive incarceration rates and the reactions of the people as towards the actions of law enforcement pertaining towards smaller amounts of drugs. So rather than being jailed or fined hundreds of dollars and for months, you are able to, in a lot of situations, have many that will kind of go, well, that is a recreational amount that is smaller than the limit. So you are able to kind of feel more so as though you can be truly safe with the usage of your recreational prescribed drugs, as opposed to feeling as though you will be in prison for your prescribed medical drugs. Now, it is still advised that you do not drive while under the influence or do any kind of action that could put others in danger. However, you will not be persecuted against for having your medical cannabis with you while traveling. Alright, you guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you guys loved the video. If you guys have any suggestions for other cool topics to cover pertaining towards legal aid updates, DK's legal aid updates, and news stories or case topics, please send them over, comment, head over to our website, send over an email or a message in the contact feature section, and I would love to literally just read through it and pick some really cool aspects or topics to cover on the channel. Alright, so you guys, as always, go check us out on social media. We are on Instagram, DKHLegalAid, X, DKHLegalAid, and TikTok, DKH.legal.aid. Love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.